You know that feeling? Staring at just a mountain of information, trying to find the core of something dense, but you're just wading through articles, jargon.
We've been there. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to do here. Take those stacks of sources, kind of cut through it all, and pull out the key things, the surprising nuggets for you.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we're diving into a term that sounds simple enough. Dvandvayuddha literally translates as duel. But our sources show that in ancient Hindu traditions, this term carried this huge philosophical and ethical weight.
It really did. It transforms a simple fight into something much bigger.
So where are we drawing this from mainly?
Right. So the source material for this deep dive, it comes from some really insightful essays exploring Dvandvayuddha, especially how it plays out in the big epics, you know, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana.
Yeah.
And our mission really is to unpack how these one-on-one combats, they weren't just physical contests, not at all. They were like microcosms of cosmic struggle, real tests of character, of dharma.
Dharma meaning righteousness, right?
Yeah.
Conduct.
Exactly. Righteous conduct.
Yeah.
And destiny, too. They were crucibles, really, for the individuals and the ideals they represented.
That's a powerful way to put it, a crucible.
Right.
So, okay, let's start at the beginning then. What exactly is Dvandvayuddha? Why is it so much more than just a fight?
Well, at its core, the word itself, it's Sanskrit. You've got dvandva, that means pair or duel,
Okay.
and yuddha, which means combat or battle. So yes, the literal meaning is duel or duel-based combat.
Makes sense.
But the sources, they consistently frame it as the, quote, purest, most personal form of warfare. It's this one-on-one contest, and it's often driven by things like deep pride or a search for justice, or sometimes it feels like fate just pulling the strings. But what's really interesting and what lifts it beyond just brawling is that these duels were governed by really strict codes of conduct.
Codes like rules and engagement.
Yeah. Precisely. Rules about timing, you know, when you could fight. Rules about weapons, making sure things were equal, ensuring both combatants were actually ready and agreed to the fight. And crucially, honoring oaths. Oaths made before or even during the duel.
That's fascinating. It immediately makes me think, how does this fit into the bigger picture of war ethics? Like, I've heard of dharma-yuddha, the concept of a just war. How does Dvandvayuddha relate to that?
That's a really good question, and it's key, actually. So, dharma-yuddha refers to the whole war, the entire conflict, being fought according to certain ethical principles by the armies involved.
The macro level.
Exactly. Dvandvayuddha is the micro level within that just war. It's the individual, honorable duel. It's the personal ethical struggle playing out.
Okay, got it.
And these duels weren't just about who's stronger or faster, they were deeply symbolic. They really reflected that fundamental struggle between dharma, righteousness, and adharma, unrighteousness.
Oh.
Yeah, and often you see these duels having serious karmic consequences or even, you know, divine intervention playing a role.
It's incredible how these personal face-offs, even in the middle of these huge epic wars, become these focal points for really profound moral questions. Especially, as you mentioned, in the Mahabharata. That's where we really see Dvandvayuddha explored dramatically, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The Kurukshetra War, I mean, it's considered a dharma-yuddha itself, but it is just jam-packed with these individual duels. And they highlight both the glory and the tragedy of this kind of combat.
So give us an example. What's a major one?
Well, the most iconic duel, maybe in all of Indian mythology, has to be Arjuna versus Karna.
Yes. Huge rivalry there.
Massive. This happens on the 17th day of the Kurukshetra War. You have Arjuna, the Pandava prince, the ultimate archer, finally facing his arch-rival, Karna. Karna, known for his generosity, but also his immense pride and skill.
And this wasn't just bows and arrows, right? There were divine weapons.
Oh yeah, they use powerful astras, these divine weapons. The duel was just charged with intense emotion, incredibly complex karma swirling around them, both born of the same mother, technically, but on opposite sides.
And the ending. That's the part people always debate, isn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly clean.
Not at all. It's hugely controversial. Karna's chariot wheel gets stuck in the mud because of a prior curse, mind you.
Right, the curse.
And while Karna's trying to free it, basically defenseless, Arjuna, urged on by his charioteer Krishna, strikes him down.
Wow. So hitting a defenseless opponent? That seems like a clear violation.
It absolutely is by the rules of Dvandvayuddha. And this moment, it's this profound ethical puzzle. Does the greater good or divine will justify breaking the code? Does a just victory sometimes require an unjust act? It leaves this kind of eternal question mark over dharma itself.
A tough one. What other major duels stand out in the Mahabharata?
Well, you have the final duel of the entire epic, Bhima versus Duryodhana.
The end of the war, essentially.
Exactly. This was a mace battle. A god of Yuddha fought as a Dvandvayuddha, and it's described as just this raw contest of brute strength, technique, and just overwhelming emotion. Years and years of hatred built up.
Bhima, the strong man of the Pandavas, against the Kaurava king.
Right. And again, controversy. Bhima, fueled by this incredible rage and remembering past vows he'd made, he strikes Duryodhana below the belt with his mace.
Which is against the rules of mace fighting.
Explicitly forbidden. It was a breaking of the code. But that blow marks the symbolic and literal end of Duryodhana and the Kaurava dynasty.
So another victory achieved by bending or outright breaking the rules. It
Yeah.
makes you wonder, doesn't it? Does the end justify the means, or does it just keep the cycle going?
Precisely that question hangs over it. And then, for a really stark contrast, think about Abhimanyu versus the Kaurava warriors.
Abhimanyu, Arjuna's son.
Yes, his stand inside the Chakravyuha formation, well, it wasn't a Dvandvayuddha, and that's the point. It was fundamentally unfair.
How so?
He was trapped inside this complex military formation designed to trap enemies. And he wasn't fighting one-on-one. He was surrounded and attacked by multiple great warriors, eventually killed by 6 of them, attacking simultaneously.
6 against 1.
Yeah. A total violation of the sanctity of Dvandvayuddha and of dharma. It shows what happens when those principles are just completely thrown aside for overwhelming force. A really tragic moment.
So the Mahabharata seems to really explore the gray areas, the ambiguities, the violations. How does the Ramayana handle Dvandvayuddha? Is it different?
It often feels different, yes. Ramayana tends to frame these duels more clearly through a lens of divine justice, cosmic balance being restored, destiny fulfilled.
Okay.
The climactic duel there, of course, is Rama versus Ravana.
The ultimate showdown.
Absolutely. You have Rama, who is seen as the embodiment of dharma, confronting Ravana, the powerful 10-headed demon king of Lanka.
And how did that duel play out?
It was epic, prolonged, incredibly powerful, again, involving mighty Astra's divine weapons, but also Vedic chants, powerful ritual invocations adding another layer. But the key thing the sources highlight is that even facing Ravana's immense power and, frankly, his cheating and illusions, Rama consistently stays within the bounds of ethical warfare.
He does break the rules.
He doesn't. He ultimately defeats Ravana using the Brahmastra, a supremely powerful divine weapon, but the victory is portrayed as righteous, restoring cosmic order through adherence to dharma.
Interesting. A different flavor entirely.
It really is. And there are other examples too, maybe less famous, like the duels involving Hanuman and Ravana's son Indrajit, also known as Meghnad. These are also intense individual combats, packed with theological and martial symbolism, devotion versus illusion, that kind of thing.
It's really striking how central these rules were. You said earlier it was almost ritualistic, not just fighting.
Exactly. Ritualistic is a great way to describe it.
So what were the specific rules, the core principles governing these sacred duels?
Okay, the sources tend to crystallize them into about 4 key principles. First, the announcement of the duel. It had to be formal. Warriors would challenge specific opponents. No ambiguity.
It's your intention.
Right. Second, equal arms and armor. Fairness was paramount. You couldn't have, say, a warrior in a chariot fighting someone on foot.
Yeah.
Or someone with armor against someone without. That was out.
Makes sense. Level playing field.
Third, rules of time. Fights weren't just endless brawls. They often paused at sunset. Or if there was foul weather, or, importantly, if a warrior was injured, disarmed, or yielded.
So moments of respite built in?
Yes. And fourth, and this is crucial, no interference. Once a Dvandvayuddha began, other warriors, allies, anyone else, they were strictly forbidden from jumping in or interfering.
One-on-one means one-on-one.
Absolutely. And as we saw with Bhima, and especially with Abhimanyu's death, breaking these rules wasn't just a tactical oopsie. It brought real shame, dishonor, sometimes even divine curses onto the violator.
It makes me wonder, did the sources talk about atonement? If someone broke the rules, was there a way back, or was that stain permanent, beyond just shame?
That's a deep question. The sources seem to imply that while you might win the physical fight by breaking the rules, the moral cost often echoed through the victor's life. Internal conflict, future setbacks, a tarnished legacy.
So not a simple story.
Not really. Sometimes the stain on dharma was profound, especially as we talked about with Arjuna and Karna, when divine will itself seemed to complicate the picture. It wasn't always black and white.
Okay, so let's bring this forward. How does this ancient concept resonate today? Does Dvandvayuddha have any relevance for us now?
Well, maybe not literal duels with maces on a battlefield.
Hopefully not.
Right. But you can see echoes, definitely. In India, think about traditional wrestling, kushti, that happens in places called akharas.
Okay, the wrestling pits.
Yeah, or ancient martial arts like Kalaripayattu or Yuddha from South India. These traditions often preserve a sense of that one-on-one contest having a kind of sacred martial ethos, respect for the opponent, adherence to form, discipline. It's more than just winning.
So a legacy in martial arts.
Yes, but also, maybe more broadly, philosophically, the idea of confronting your inner enemy.
Inner enemies.
Yeah, in Hindi thought, things like kama lust or excessive desire, krodha anger, loha greed, moha delusion or attachment, mada pride or arrogance, and matsarya envy or jealousy.
The classic obstacles.
Exactly. Confronting these within yourself. That can be seen as a kind of personal spiritual duel. A Dvandvayuddha where the principles of self-control, ethical conduct, discipline, they're still the weapons you need.
That's a really interesting parallel, the internal battlefield.
So, when you look at it all, Dvandvayuddha is so much more than just a fight. It really is the entire battlefield, the entire ethical struggle, condensed into its most personal, most intense form. It's a trial of character, of strength, sure, but also of destiny.
And the epics really cemented that.
Absolutely. Through the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, these duels became legendary. They represent these massive clashes, dharma versus dharma, ego versus humility, maybe even fate versus our own free will.
Really makes you think. To study Dvandvayuddha is to see how deeply these ancient cultures wove concepts like honor, fairness, sacred duty into the very fabric of conflict, down to every single blow. So, for you listening, think about your own life. Maybe a challenge you're facing, a personal conflict, even a professional disagreement or debate. What aspect of that might benefit from being approached with that kind of defined sense of honor, that ethical conduct, almost as if it were a sacred duel? Where are your own inner duels playing out? And could some of these ancient principles, fairness, restraint, sticking to principle even when it's hard, actually apply? Something to consider.